I was wondering whether there are forces, Palestinian or Gazan forces within Gaza. I know of one, at least in southern Gaza, who are anti-Hamas,
Yep.
who operate alone. And I wondered how effective or helpful such a group has been, and to what extent is that happening? We've seen anti-Hamas protests. We've seen terrible, brutal executions by Hamas of certain protesters. What is the resistance within Gaza?
So it's hard to know how effective. You're right. The Bedouin tribes in southern Gaza, in the Rafah area, where they wrote the leader wrote a Wall Street Journal op-ed saying, "I'm not Hamas. I control this area. There's no problem with aid. And I'm hunting and killing Hamas." And Israel provided them with weapons, and that was some type of a bad thing because they had some of the supposed nefarious backgrounds. This is, again, where I come in. I'm not a historian, but I'm definitely a student of war, going like, that's a very regular practice in almost every war, is to support the enemy of your enemy to help you achieve your goal, which is the destruction of that entity, political and military. So that was that tribe, clan. But in Khan Yunis last week, we actually saw multiple clans rising up against Hamas after they demonstrated that exact killing that you just talked about. And you had them, they did multiple recorded video messages saying, "We support President Trump's 20-point plan. We're anti-Hamas. We are not Hamas, and we're targeting Hamas," after they killed, after
they killed who?
The Hamas, basically secret security police, did a very videoed killing of, I think it was 4 or 5.
Yes. Oh, I see.
I don't know if you saw that one.
Yes, the nighttime sort of execution.
Yeah, those clans in Khan Yunis rose up against Hamas because of that, which is almost the same thing as the protest you're talking about. They killed one of the young teenage leaders of the protest, which then, again, pushes these clans to rebel against Hamas and actually take action against. So now you have these clans in Khan Yunis that are seeking out and killing, and now they've aired some of their killings of Hamas.
Do we know to what extent those clans are operating with the IDF? Is there any collaboration?
We know for a fact that the IDF doesn't provide small arms to at least the southern Gaza clan.
The Bedouin tribes.
Yes. But you can guarantee that, there's many forms of intelligence that these clans also help provide intelligence on Hamas, and some of the Hamas leadership might have been targeted through informants and things. Although I also point out that Israel offered, I think it was 5 million shekels for anybody who had information about hostages that would come and give that. And not a single person was awarded that, so I assume didn't give any information about the location of hostages. The clans, though, back to your question, is, for me, it's very normal in war to do that. So for people to say, even if they're bad people, why are you helping them? Because I'm helping them because they're going to help me achieve my goal. And then we'll deal with demilitarizing the Gaza Strip afterwards. The first goal is to remove the power of Hamas. But by the fact that these people can publicly come out, especially these Khan Yunis clans, means that Israel has been successful, despite all the obstacles, at weakening Hamas's even coercive power. So it doesn't have a military anymore. Hamas's military isn't coherent. It's a guerrilla.
Degraded beyond recognition.
Right, which is, a definition is a certain percentage, like 50% capability to do its assigned mission is a definition for us to destroy, and its inability to reconstitute itself, which is always the question, like, how do you prevent it from reconstituting itself? Like getting new fighters, although they don't have the same training and experience. It doesn't have a military. It has a guerrilla force. It still has a really big guerrilla force because it has a radicalized population, which either for self-interest or for radicalized interest will join in the fight.
And do you think it's big enough to reconstitute itself at this point?
No.
Okay.
But which gets to its power to reconstitute itself. Because then you see now its powers are weakening. When you see these clans saying, it no longer is it is of my interest to align with them, to allow them to operate in my city. Even though it's this idea of powers within urban areas is part of my research as well. But for me, it is an ultimate sign that people that argue that Israel hasn't been successful despite 2 years of war. this is the clearest sign, one of the clearest signs that you can give. Not only are they successful at distributing food, they're successful at weakening Hamas's power, so much so that you have clans who are openly saying that they are resisting Hamas in Gaza.
Right. This might sound like a callous question, but I'm trying to put myself in the... I'm not going to for a second suggest that I would be either brave enough or even physically strong or maybe crazy enough to act such a way. But if I was a Gazan and I was anti-Hamas, the war starts. Now, this obviously are not including children and women in this scenario. But if I was a man, as I am at my age now, in my 30s, and I was anti-Hamas and I thought that they were destroying my country, I've spoken to several Gazans who are anti-Hamas. I recently spoke to one who was tortured by Hamas. I'm not sure I would have the courage that he had to stand up against Hamas, given how they were treated. But how do we see these sort of non-combatant males in Gaza? Not sort of including the clans. What's the frame of mind there? Are they sort of trying to... How much, to what extent can they say, I'm not involved with the war? I mean, I imagine if something like this had happened to Britain, firstly, I'm sure I would be compelled to save my country and fight for my country. But that would be assuming I actually liked the government and believed that we're on the side of the righteous. But that for that part of the demographic, but perhaps it's a weird question to ask, but how do you think we should think of that demographic?
Yeah, it's hard to, with the knowing of the radicalization of the population, it's hard to distinguish, but you can say they'll vote with their feet, right? So the ones that are moving to the humanitarian zone and not participating in the fight, we can start with those, as in those aren't the males that are staying in areas, doing these, they're still trying to attack the idea, that are holding the hostages, whatever. You could separate them from all of these in the humanitarian zone that are just working to live their lives, even the markets that they show, just trying to be a market vendor, even though they're paying Hamas their tax, just trying to survive. To be able to distinguish it by just straight looking at it, it would be hard, but you can vote. People do vote with their feet.
Right. I see. Thanks for watching this clip from the Winston Marshall Show. You can click here to watch the full episode, and for more clips like this one, don't forget to subscribe. And as always, be well.